Welcome to episode 100 of the Side Hustle Hero podcast. Woohoo! I'm your host, Joan, the author of The Way Success Works. Before we dive into our dazzling lineup, let me extend the biggest, warmest thank you to each and every one of you. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or you've been part of our Side Hustle Hero community for a while now, your support has propelled us to really remarkable results. Can you believe it? In just 2 whirlwind years, we've soared to the top 10% of over 3.3 million podcasts globally, according to the podcast search engine Listen Notes. And it's all thanks to you. And, of course, our awesome Side Hustle Hero guests. Today, I'm featuring the top 10 side hustles from our year 2. And I gotta tell you, narrowing it down to the top 10 was like trying to choose between your favorite flavors of ice cream. Every episode brought its own unique sweet value. These side hustles aren't ranked in any particular order because, let's face it, they're all champions in their own right. But I will explain the reasoning for each as we go along. But first, here's a little something fun. If our chats are lighting up your entrepreneurial spark and you're gaining insights, inspiration, and ahas, a fun way to show your support and to give the show a caffeinated thumbs up is to head on over to sidehustlehero.com/support, where you can shoot me over a large soy latte, or maybe even a double espresso. It really is a thing over at sidehustlehero.com/support. Thank you from the bottom of my coffee cup. Now here is our top 10 side hustles from year 2. Number 1, party tent rentals. While the episode is about renting party tents and tables and chairs, let's broaden that out to include anything durable and in demand that you can buy, own, and then rent out. Having been in the self-storage industry for 18 years, I've seen firsthand how profitable the model of building and renting can be. Similarly, with rental inventory, after a certain number of uses, the items pay for themselves, transforming the business into a cash cow. Here's what I mean. It's from episode 90 with Adam Keller. How to get rental rich from party tents.
After your first 10 rentals, it's paid for. So then it's just the cost of you and one dude. You're looking at a pretty significant return on investment after those 10 rentals. You're just
Yes.
factoring in your time and maybe one other person's time. You're probably storing in a garage. So you can be making close to probably 70 to 80% profit on those. It's an insane business. It's one of the few businesses that you can bootstrap from nothing, start making a lot of money, and just sky's the limit.
It made the top 10 list because of the simplicity of the business and relatively low-cost entry point. He tells us that about $2,000 will get you started with a 20-foot by 20-foot tent, 50 chairs, 6 tables. Adam didn't start with tons of inventory. He started just with 3 tents and no tables, no chairs. Then he built up from there. If I had known Adam when I ran my self-storage facility, I definitely would have considered adding a party tent rental side hustle. Already having the space to store the inventory would have been a huge advantage. This brings an important point. What existing resources do you have that would give you a competitive edge in a new venture? For instance, at my storage facility, I capitalized on our proximity to a lake by selling kayaks. I know that sounds like an odd pairing, but the move was strategic. We had the infrastructure, the staff, the storage space, and it was at a time that the demand for kayaks was really gaining a lot of traction. The storage facility was called 12 Mile Storage. I branded the kayak business under the storage facility's name, so it became 12 Mile Kayak, which really cut down on costs. For example, no additional phone number needed. When someone called, we simply answered, "Good morning, 12 Mile," and then based on the question, the call would be directed accordingly. This streamlined operations and reduced additional costs to really mainly the advertising and the wholesale cost of the boats and accessories. While Adam began small, he mentioned larger players in the market generating upwards of 8 figures plus in annual revenue. This business is very scalable. And Adam gives lots of examples of expansion ideas depending on your market. And the growth potential isn't limited to tents. Earlier this week, I was walking by a local park that is fenced off while construction is taking place for some much-needed revitalization. I noticed that the company renting the perimeter fencing is also supplying several porta potties as well as a couple of work trailers. Ka-ching! As you establish your rental business, customer inquiries can guide your organic growth. Adam learned that lesson the hard way. He used to buy items that he thought customers would want, and at times he got it wrong. Now, what he'll do is if he thinks an idea might be popular, instead of going out and buying the item, he'll first add it to the website of available items to rent and then see if the demand is really there. He's got a lot of smart ideas for starting and growing this side hustle. So, if the idea of renting out what you own appeals to you, you'll want to check out our episode 90 with Adam Keller and learn how to get rental rich from party tents. Side hustle number 2, selling at farmers markets. Why is selling at farmers markets in the top 10 list? It's a brilliant strategy to test your product in a low-risk environment. With a minimal upfront cost, you gain access to significant foot traffic, allowing you to understand what customers love and what could use improvement. It's a good platform to identify customer pain points, experiment with pricing strategies, build a loyal customer base, and perfect your elevator pitch and your overall sales technique too. The downside is minimal. The potential upside can be huge. Case in point, Melissa Mills, who began her journey at a farmer's market with just a blender, a bicycle, and $500.
I have never really known what I was going to be or do with my life. And I've always kind of curved more towards the artistic things. I thought I was going to be a super famous musician in a band for most of my life. And then I got into painting and I had a short stint at Emily Carr and I thought I would pursue that a little bit more. But all along, my entire life has sort of been a side hustle. As an artist, you're kind of used to having your heart set in one place and sort of making money in another. So it was not, I was very much used to that sort of a lifestyle. And then just one day I just decided that I couldn't be an artist anymore because I was around 30, I think, at the time. And we all know living in Vancouver is quite expensive.
Yes.
To your point, I did not own a car still at 30 years old. I don't know if I'd ever owned a car. I was renting a bedroom, like as often, young adults do, they share with friends. But like as you're starting to move more into like late adulthood, like sharing of, renting a room is not what you'd hoped and dreamed of as a child. Anyway, me, I always thought I'd have my own apartment. I could decorate it however I wanted. Those were dreams I wanted. And so I was starting to really put a lot of pressure on myself to be like, okay, I think we have to flip the switch here and turn the arts into the side hustle and find something that was suitable. So hilarious story. Anyone who knows me knows that this is a terrible fit. But anyway, I just quickly Googled what's the most amount of money for the least amount of schooling that I could do to just change everything? Because I'm also, my personality type is very like efficient and maximum. Like I cook on maximum, I drive on maximum. I'm very much a straight line person. One cool thing though about this company has helped me try to enjoy the journey kind of life, which is kind of interesting, but we can talk about that later. But
yeah, so at that point, I want to make mega bucks right away.
Yeah, exactly. Or something, at least to pay my rent and maybe get a car one day was sort of like,
my own place.
Sort of low. Yeah, exactly. And it was cardiac technician, which is what popped up. And I was like, okay, I'm going to become a cardiac technician. It's only 2 years of school. And apparently we need a lot of them. And with the heart disease being like the never makes sense. So I went back to school, the VCC. I took calculus, which is so out of my wheelhouse, and chemistry because I had to upgrade. Basically, the 1 hour of homework a night turned into about 6 hours of homework for me because I just like it's out. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'd spend 6 hours a night in the library every single night. I passed both courses with a B. Thank you very much. But then I just decided that this is not for me. I was at a moment where I just sort of like threw myself down on the ground and said, okay, what then? Like, what am I supposed to be or do? Like, I don't feel like anything I do connects or is easy or feels like I'm in the flow of life. And so I said, screw it. I'm going to start making dips.
She started by making plant-based dips in her kitchen and selling them locally. When demand grew, she began delivering her products by bicycle because she couldn't afford a car. Fast forward to today, and Melissa's dips are produced in a 20,000 square foot facility and sold in over 2,000 stores, generating revenues exceeding $3 million. One of several standout features of Melissa's story is that her growth has been entirely organic. She hasn't received any outside funding for her company called Spread'em. Instead, she's invested her revenues back into the business, demonstrating scrappiness and prudent bootstrapping. Melissa has always prioritized quality, never cutting corners on her ingredients. But when it comes to, say, boxes for shipping, why spend money on new when you can get used ones for free? It's just one of the things that she did to save money in the early days. Many believe that a big bankroll is necessary to launch a successful side hustle that one day will be huge. However, Melissa, as well as a lot of our side hustle heroes, prove that that simply isn't the case. While being well-funded can help, it's certainly not the only path to success. Even now, Spread'em products are sold at local farmers markets. It was through a free sample at her booth that I discovered the company, Melissa, and her incredible story. If you have a desire to start or grow your side hustle and have a dream for building it into something really substantial, don't miss episode 67, What It Takes to Build a Multi-Million-Dollar Company from Scratch. Some people are content with their farmer's market gig remaining a side hustle. Take Jonathan Schuett, for example. In episode 77, Massive Markups for Mega Profits, we discuss his one-day-a-week side hustle selling kettle corn. His business insights and perspectives are incredibly educational. He's the kind of person you'd love to go for a walk with, just so that you can analyze different businesses that you pass by. After our formal interview ended, our conversation continued, and thankfully, so did the recording. Jonathan shared his eye-opening experience at an air show analyzing a business selling snow cones. We crunched the numbers, and the insights were so valuable that we included them in the episode. One of the takeaways was this: pay attention to the cost of your product. If you're selling popcorn or a snow cone for $9, and the booth across from you is selling a steak sandwich for, say, $12, who do you think's making the most money per sale? You are, because the cost of the meat in that steak sandwich is expensive. Gross sales is just one number in the financials. You have to know at the end of the day how much profit you're actually making.
I realize that people are very much followers. So let's say one person bought a small bag, the 30 people in line behind them, they've seen the person in front of them.
Yeah.
A small bag. And literally everybody would buy a $3 bag.
Really?
So then the one day I decided to eliminate the $3 bag. So we just have a small and a large. Then they all bought the small bag again, but it was the medium bag.
Right.
Instead of making $3, I was making $4.
Wow.
Very odd people, like one in a couple hundred complained about it, but it was very insignificant. But at the end of the day, they still bought the bag. And then I think the following year, I just said, you know what? Only larges from now on. So I only had one size bag.
And what
And-
kind of pushback did you get on that, or how did it affect sales?
Virtually none, because once people see, that you're making the popcorn, they smell it, they try a sample. If they have in their head, if they're going to buy a bag, whether it's $3, $4, or $5, it's not a significant amount.
That's true.
would-
And a beautiful example of that, I hate to say that, but that's me in line at the movies today.
Exactly.
I mean, it is ridiculous what they charge in the large
know.
theaters. And
Yep.
it's like, seriously, for what the cost of this is? But
Yeah.
you know what? I still buy the damn bag of popcorn because I don't
We
go
all
out
do
that
it.
often.
I'm guilty of it too. Like
Yeah.
we all do it. And then, so I had everyone buying large bags. So that, almost doubled revenue just by eliminating 2 bag sizes.
By paying attention to the numbers and watching customer behavior, Jonathan increased revenues by 50% overnight by making one small change. And then a year later, increasing revenues again by 50% by making yet another small change. Be sure to check out episode 77, Massive Markups for Mega Profits, to get you thinking about how to earn more from your side hustle. For our next side hustle, number 3 in our top 10, we're moving indoors to the intriguing online business of buying websites for cash flow, featuring insights from Matt Rad. This opportunity allows you to bypass the typical startup phase and jump straight into a business that is already generating revenue. This is not a get rich quick scheme. Instead, it involves purchasing an existing website business that generates cash flow and then identifying ways to add value to increase its cash flow and overall worth over time. Today, Matt and his wife have an extensive portfolio of profitable website businesses. And fun fact, according to Matt, having expertise or knowledge of the industry in which you're buying the website business is not a prerequisite, in part because you can hire people who do have the required knowledge and talent to write the content.
You actually start out on a very small site, like buy a starter site under $1,000 just so you can learn how this works. So keep the risk really low so that you can learn, like I said, first and foremost, your capabilities and how websites work. Most people don't understand how websites make money and what are the elements that go together to do that. So that's the first step.
This side hustle can appeal to you for both its lucrative cash flow and its potential for asset growth, especially if you enjoy working on a computer. Also, if the website's topic aligns with your interests, you'll find additional fun value, be it gardening, sports, pets, or any area that you're interested in. If you're looking for a side hustle that's online based, are willing and able to take the time to build it up, are a bit computer savvy, and want flexible hours, unlike the fixed schedules of something like a farmer's market, buying websites for cash flow might be a really good fit. To learn more, check out episode 62, How to Buy Websites for Cash Flow. The next two side hustles cast a wide net on freelancing. Number 4 in our top 10 list is selling on Fiverr. It's a dynamic platform where you offer your services across more than 700 skill categories to its 4.1 million active buyers. Setting up and maintaining your page is completely free, although Fiverr does take a 20% cut of your sales in exchange for the services and exposure they provide. Almost any service that can be delivered online is sold on Fiverr. Popular categories include graphic design, video editing, article writing, and website development. But you'll also find translation services, 3D product rendering, and even architecture and interior design, and legal services. Derek Morgan is a trademark attorney we featured in episode 45, What, When, Why to Trademark. This trademark attorney isn't holed up in some office tower. Derek travels the globe as a digital nomad, leveraging the Fiverr platform to maintain his career while exploring and enjoying the world. But here's the thing. Many or most of the categories come with significant competition. Derek can easily differentiate himself as a trademark attorney. There's much less competition in that category versus someone starting out on the platform, say, offering photo editing services. So a strategy that has worked for many successful freelancers is to start with competitive pricing, slightly lower than market, to attract business, build up reviews, and a client base. As your reputation grows, you can then increase your rates. This approach has been successful for several side hustle heroes we've featured. But a way to gain traction faster is to jump in when you see an emerging trend. Ideally, just ahead of trend. Jessica Herring, for example, shared her story in episode 63, Seizing Opportunity, My Path to a Six-Figure Income.
It's crazy how one small decision can change the entire trajectory of your life. And it could be something that happened years ago and you don't even realize it. And it's crazy when you think back on it, that one thing that you were like, oh, maybe not. Because like I definitely considered being like, okay, let's not do this. I don't think we should do this.
Yeah.
And boy, am I glad I did.
Cool. Jessica began offering video editing services on Fiverr. Then she was ready when a timely email from Twitch presented a new niche opportunity, which she seized, that led to a flood of incoming gigs. Conversely, Gabrielle Gerbis's decision to pounce was more being driven by fear. She was freaked out about the negative implications of AI. Maybe you are too. She's a freelance writer and copy editor who had huge concerns, especially once business started to drop off. But then she knew she needed to jump on board and figure out how the proliferation of AI could work to her benefit. That's when her business started to once again grow. She talks about how she turned things around in episode 66, From Threat to Thrive, Profiting from AI.
But
I had always thought that writing is a profession that will never go out of style. You always need writers, you always need people who are good with the written word, and I
Yeah.
was totally wrong as soon as I saw how well these tools worked. I definitely saw a change in sales for sure. But, there's the economy's down, inflation, it was hard to attribute what was going on, but, when AI entered the equation, I freaked out a bit too. I thought, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna ride my wave as long as I can,
Yeah.
and if now's the time for me to be done, then I'm done, and I'll, like, start an e-commerce business, or I'll use the entrepreneur skills I've learned to do something else." But that was a little preemptive in terms of my I'll just stop. It's just my time because I soon realized
It's been a
that
fun
and
ride, but
yeah, I'm like, "Okay, well, my husband can just work harder and I'll figure out how to make ends meet another way."
right.
But no, I realized that was a bit preemptive of me because I don't think AI is a destination. It's a tool. It's now just like Grammarly or any tool. Obviously, that's kind of an understatement because it does a lot more. But I soon realized that clients would start to write stuff in AI,
Okay.
and then there's a limitation on these tools as well. So I think Fiverr is kind of my playground for testing ideas
Okay.
because it's so easy to put up a gig. It's so especially when you have the traffic that my profile already has, I can put up a gig, see if people like it, and get the benefit of being a high seller on there. And so I started back in, I think, December, I put up an AI editing gig of like, okay, so people are writing AI content. They probably need an editor because if they're not good writers to begin with, they need that human touch on the content if they want to publish it.
So once you recognize that AI is coming and it could
Yeah.
put you out of a job, I think one of the keys here that excites me is that you didn't leave it at that and say, "Oh, poor me." There was at a point where you said to yourself, in some way, shape, or form, "How can I benefit from this? How can I work with this? How can I grow my
Yeah.
business in spite of this
Yeah.
or along with this?"
Yeah, I had to have that moment with myself because I started to see marketing from Fiverr about AI. I started to see everyone talking about AI. And even though my soul is the poet by the pond with a typewriter, I
Yeah.
had to be like, I have to just get on board with this. And if not, it will leave me behind. And I can just be like the old man on the porch yelling at people and bitter about it. But I soon had to find my space in it.
So keep on the lookout for emerging trends and opportunities that fit your skill set so that you'll be ready to pounce. For those of you who are already active on Fiverr and want tips to bump up your sales, or you're considering joining, check out episode 58, How to Succeed on Fiverr, Tips from an Insider with Trisha Diamond.
So what I would say if you're coming to Fiverr for the first time, the first thing I would do, of course, once you've identified like what is the service that you can offer, what is something that you're very good at, or maybe you want to start the side hustle because you want to develop a new skill. First, do a search for what that is and see who your first results are in that search. These are generally the freelancers on Fiverr that are performing the best.
Right.
And I'm not saying copy, but like look at what they're doing, follow for best practices. You can check them out for their pricing, how they structure their services. We have packages for everything. So you can think about where you could come in at a lower price, but very easily within your gig page, upsell into more premium packages. And the first thing is really honestly, look at what other folks are doing because there's going to be probably someone who's successful for any genre.
I've had a couple of guests on that are on the platform,
Mhm.
and what they've done is when they started is take a look at some of those top sellers and strategically price just underneath those top sellers with the anticipation that that would generate some traffic for them until they build up the reviews and then at some point in the future could start raising their prices. What do you think of that strategy?
I think that it's a great strategy when you're new to any sort of market, whether it's freelancing or if you're anywhere in the world, you always want to come in with a stronger value than the folks that are established in that industry. And I mean, I don't want anybody to undersell themselves. So sometimes it's not just offering the same thing for, say, 20% less. Maybe structure your offering so that it includes 20% less that's a little bit extra that not everybody needs, and structure the offer accordingly. Because after all, we're all here in order to make a certain amount of money. Like, we have our financial goals and everyone should meet them. But as you're coming in and you're establishing yourself, it's a great strategy. I always think about Fiverr. If you roll a snowball down a mountain. I don't know if this happens in real life. I'm from Florida, but I imagine you roll the snowball down the mountain, and as it goes lower, it gets larger and larger. And that's a lot like the buildup is on Fiverr. Is you start really small and you do a few jobs, and over time you can include more services, increase your prices, add more to the packages that you offer. And that's all of the successful talent that I've met on Fiverr, which is quite a bit. That's really how they all started.
That's a great analogy, Trisha. And being the Canadian in the room, yes, that's very accurate. That's what happens.
This happens. People do roll the snowballs down. One day I will do it.
Trisha has been with Fiverr for over 8 years and is their Global Senior Director of Customer Success. So she's in the perfect position to give insider advice on what to do to break through and excel on the platform. Number 5 of our top 10 side hustles from year 2 is co-hosting short-term rentals. In this role, a co-host earns a percentage of the rental income by managing various aspects of the property, including creating attractive listings on various platforms, coordinating seamless check-in and check-outs, maintaining cleanliness, and ensuring a great guest experience. One of the appealing aspects of co-hosting is the relatively low startup cost. You don't need to own the property that you manage. Instead, you provide valuable services to both the property owners and the guests. But this dual responsibility can be challenging. As a co-host, you're hired by the property owners, but your income depends on guest payments. To succeed, you must continuously nail those 5-star reviews by dazzling guests, and at the same time balancing that with the homeowner's costs and expectations. Sean Parker discusses this challenge in episode 87, Essential Intel to Co-host Short-Term Rentals. He talked about it when I asked him about some of the downsides of the business that people don't often talk about. Despite the challenges that really come with any business, he's sure thankful he jumped in.
Like I said, working shift work for years there, I would have those 12-hour night shifts where you just sit and stew and you come up with ideas, but you wouldn't act on them. And this was the first time we kind of acted on something, on doing something on the side, and it's turned into, it's no longer a side hustle. It's our full-time profession, and we're learning. And it was just one of those things that there's so many things that we wouldn't have learned had we have just sat and researched and thought about it and tried to come up with the perfect plan to launch this side hustle. Just by starting it, we were able to learn more than we ever could have just based on research.
Together with his wife, Jill, they co-host 52 properties and look after close to 65 properties. He shares a lot of valuable insights, like what happened when instead of doing the cleaning themselves, they contracted it out. The cleanliness component of the reviews dropped, affecting the overall rating. And of course, when the ratings drop, bookings dropped. So they had to bring that back in-house. As a co-host of short-term rentals, you not only add to your income stream, but it also allows you to gain experience in property management, real estate, and hospitality. Number 6 out of our top 10 is a fun one. Pet sitting. If you love pets, this gig could be your perfect blend of passion and profit. Lucy Slater dives into this in episode 73, Paws, Profits, and Tails, as in wagging tails, of pet sitting.
I can't have pets in my apartment. My apartment isn't pet friendly.
Oh, okay.
And I can't live without a pet.
What a great solution. Get to play with dogs and pets and cats, even though you can't have them in your own space. Okay, I love that.
Yeah, definitely. So that was one reason. And another reason is just to have that other extra bit of income. I've never really considered myself being like the hustle and bustle, having that kind of like multiple job thing. I'm very much like a slow living kind of person, but this is the perfect balance of my passion. I love I love being around animals, and I can very much do this whilst I work remotely full time as well.
Lucy works full time in social media remotely, which means she gets paid from two sources when she's taking on a dog sitting job. How fun is that? Working on a marketing campaign while giving Fido a pat on the head and getting paid to do both at the same time. She prefers using a platform like Rover.com for several reasons, including because of their background checks, which make her feel relatively safe. Some people choose to avoid the 20% fee that the platform keeps from your revenue and to instead advertise their services through local apps and Google My Business. Whether you use a platform or go it alone, you'll have full control over your calendar. Just remember, for dog walking, many owners like having a regular schedule. Lucy mostly stays at the pet owners' homes when they're away, often on weekends. If this sounds like something you'd be into, check out the episode where Lucy shares tips for landing your first gigs and discusses the pros and cons of using Rover. And a quick tip, Lucy credits her early successes to the detailed profile she created. When starting on any platform, pet sitting or otherwise, it's smart to look at the profiles of top sellers, not to copy, but to get ideas. What packages are they offering? How do they showcase their skills? What makes them stand out? If you're a pet lover and experienced in handling these four-legged friends, then pet sitting could be a flexible and fun way to earn extra income. Now we're back at the computer for side hustle number 7, which is all about copywriting. It's what we explored in episode 86. Write your way to $2,000 a month with Nikki Krausick. Nikki's the founder of Filthy Rich Writer and has over 20 years of experience as a copywriter. She created the Comprehensive Copywriting Academy to help others succeed in the industry, even with the rise of AI. I've spoken to several copywriters over the past year who are definitely keeping an eye on what's happening with AI. They're using it as a tool, but their real skill shines in creating original content that truly resonates with clients. Copywriting is essentially writing for marketing and advertising. This episode with Nikki really opened up my eyes to just how prevalent copywriting is.
It's the emails that companies send. It's the websites that companies send. It's billboards. It's the descriptions on the back of books. It's the words on packaging. It is everywhere. I guarantee that right now you are within an arm span of probably at least a dozen different examples of copy. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Nikki mentions that a common starting rate for copywriters is around $40 to $50 an hour. So working 10 hours a week could earn you around $2,000 a month. Nikki also mentioned that while some of her students land clients within a couple of weeks, it typically takes a few months to really get some cash flow happening. If you have a knack for writing and creativity and are considering it as a side hustle, check out my episode 86 with Nikki. Number 8 in our list is one of the standout side hustles in our community. It was featured in episode 59, Making Money with Water Vending Machines with Dan Dorimal. Vending machines are a popular side hustle, but water vending machines have a unique appeal. Maybe it's because water is something that we all need to survive, unlike snacks or soft drinks. And whereas there are a number of advantages and positive attributes to operating vending machines, it's not as easy as it may appear on the surface. Here's Dan.
Social media, TikTok and Instagram. And I think that it's a platform that allows people to see the opportunity, right? And it's there, absolutely. But within those a certain amount of seconds that you see something, the story is not really told. The amount of work, the amount of planning that needs to be done, the amount of times that you have to step forward and then fall to learn a lesson, to learn your market, to learn what your customer wants and the right price points. Those kinds of things aren't necessarily shared.
With regular vending machines, you or someone you hire needs to stock them regularly. But water and ice vending machines are a bit different. You need electricity, yes, but they also need to be hooked up to a water line that keeps them running 24/7. Sure, there's some routine maintenance, but the only real restocking involved is bags for the ice. Dan goes into detail about the costs involved.
Our ice vending machines are at around $55,000, and that is all inclusive. It's basically a business in a box because all you need to do is plug it into electric, provide water, and here you go, and have some sewage for water to drain. That's basically it. And so from there, if someone wants to get into business, you'd have to ship it. So there would be some shipping costs involved, and that varies depending on where you are. We're in this state of Florida, so we're always going out into the rest of the country and the world.
And
But
they're actually manufactured in Florida?
they are,
Yeah. Okay.
right outside of Orlando, the land of the mouse. Um, So,
Oh.
yeah, so everyone has a reason business-wise to come down here, and while you're here, you might as well take a look at the biz op, right? So, but anyway, so we're shipping out, but it's a small percentage as far as freight goes for the overall machine. Now, when you're putting the machine somewhere, setting that up is important, right? So you have to look at the local regulations and laws for your particular state, county, and municipality. But typically, setting it up, having a concrete foundation is normal. So you'd have to pour a pad, and then you run the lines. You run the lines for water. You run the lines for the drain, and then you run the lines for electric. If it's right up against a store, then you typically have all of that at your disposal.
In the episode, Dan also shares valuable insights on how to kickstart any vending machine business, not just ones involving water. He talks about finding the best locations, understanding who pays for what, and when you can expect to see your sales pick up. Spoiler alert, it's not necessarily in the first year. But if the idea of diving into the vending machine business sparks your interest, whether it's water vending machines or traditional ones, make sure to check out episode 59 with Dan Dormal, co-founder of Everest Ice and Water. So picture this. You've just ordered a brand new treadmill online. It arrives only for you to discover it's not really your thing. Now you want to return it. So you reach out to the seller. But chances are they're not handling the return themselves. Instead, they get a third-party company like ShareTown to do the job for them. That brings us to the 9th side hustle on our top 10 list, reverse logistics. More specifically, it's just like the title of episode 81 describes. Pick up and resell large and bulky returns. That's the gig. And Georgia Levitt, the COO and co-founder of ShareTown, gives us an insider's look. When a customer wants to return a big item like a treadmill or a mattress, and the seller calls ShareTown to handle it, that's where the side hustle opportunity lies. As a ShareTown rep, your job would be to go to the customer's home, pick up the almost new item, clean it up, and resell it for a profit. Here's what Georgia has to say about earnings.
So we have no exclusivity, but what's really happening is we have so many brands that want to work with us. We just need more people, right? Because we have plenty of items coming through and we need more ShareTown reps. So there isn't really a need for exclusivity at this point because whoever can come work with us, we have stuff for you to sell and we have a big enough variety that they're not really competing amongst each other.
That's great. Well, what can someone expect to earn as a ShareTown rep?
We would say our average ShareTown rep makes about $2,000 a month.
Okay.
That's our target, which is a great side hustle. There's not many hustles that I'm putting 10 to 20 hours a week into and making $2,000.
It's a sweet side hustle, especially since you don't have to buy inventory up front. Though you will need space to store these items until they sell, which is when you would pay ShareTown for the item. And you'll need a vehicle big enough to transport them. To get all the details on the steps involved from picking up the item to selling it, and some tips and tricks from top sellers, make sure to check out episode 81, Pick Up and Resell Large and Bulky Returns, an Insider's Look. The last of our top 10 side hustles of year 2, but certainly not the least, because remember, there's no real order to these side hustles, because ranking one against the other would be impossible. Each one is so unique, just like you. And of course, what may be a perfect fit for you may not be the case for someone else. But speaking of variety, we got a lot of options stemming from number 10. It's all about roadside stands. We featured this in episode 89, How to Turn Peaches into Profits, with Shannon Houchin. While she focuses on selling peaches, most of her strategies can apply to practically any produce that you might want to sell by the roadside. Now, when I say roadside, I mean those classic fruit stands that you see at the side of the road. But Shannon also mentions the benefit of negotiating a small rental fee to set up in a busy parking lot, like at a convenience store. This way, it's a win-win for you and the store owner. People might make an impulse buy of your peaches, but while they're out of their vehicle and in the parking lot, they may pick up something at the store, or vice versa. They may stop at the bricks and mortar store and then see you and think, oh, cool, fresh peaches. Imagine having your very own ATM that just keeps getting stocked. Shannon says that's what your roadside produce stand can be.
He understood how to set up a farm stand or a peach stand and just sell from the roadside. And he had been doing it for quite a while with his kids. And he said, Shannon, this is the craziest ATM machine because we don't sell peaches. We sell an experience. We sell nostalgia. We sell happiness. And it's just like punching how much cash you want into an ATM machine. And at the end of the season, that's what you get.
Shannon now earns between $150,000 and $200,000 in net profit with just 2 permanent stands and 15 pop-ups per week over a 6-month season. One of my side hustles years ago was running a deli while I was still a banker. Eventually, I left banking to focus on the deli full-time. At the end of the episode with Shannon, I delve into the power of displaying your products and how it can significantly impact sales. Shannon talks about this too. It's something that you really want to pay attention to, and it's another important tip that you can apply to really any side hustle you choose. If you're intrigued and want to learn more about running your own roadside produce stand, you'll want to check out episode 89, How to Turn Peaches into Profits. As I've been saying towards the end of all my episodes, well, that's a wrap for today. And now, that's a wrap for year 2. You'll find links to all the episodes and references I mentioned, as well as the show notes at sidehustlehero.com. And lastly, I want you to know that I am truly grateful that you've chosen to listen or watch our show. I love doing this, and I hope that shines through. I'm also so thankful to connect with these amazing side hustle heroes and bring their stories to you. And remember, your feedback is so very welcomed. I love hearing what episodes you've liked, what's your favorite, and of course, how we can improve. This journey has been incredible over the past 2 years of Side Hustle Hero, and I'm excited about what lies ahead. Because my goal is to inspire you to start and grow your side hustle so that you may live your best life. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, it would be so appreciated if you would take a moment and add your comment, share the episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start or grow their side hustle. Thanks again for watching, and hustle on.